Just an FYI. I didn't realize. I just never had a power cord before.
If I have to, I will run down to the office. I will get you one. Richard doesn't have a power cord.
He doesn't have a power cord. Is there one in your office?
I mean, there's my laptop in my office. You can run it from it, but I don't know if that's how it's supposed to work. This is not my laptop.
Are you just out of batteries, or what do you need?
Okay, Mr. Chair, we can begin in 3, 2, 1.
If this one is gonna.
And I'll call to order this special meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee. I will begin by reading a land acknowledgement statement. On November 23rd, 2023, we acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation buildings through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I'm John Wanless, Chairman of the Planning Advisory Committee. I will now introduce the committee members and staff in attendance. Please raise your hand when I state your name. Councillor Jay Brennan.
Present.
Stephen McGuire. Yvonne Robert.
Present.
Councillor Steve Robinson.
Present.
To review, committee members are asked to raise their hands and wait till called upon by the chair if they wish to speak. Item 2 on our agenda, approval of agenda. Can I have a motion? Moved by Yvonne, seconded by Steve. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes? None. Disclosure of monetary interests? I'll now move into the public meeting portions of the Planning Advisory Committee to consider consent applications B2304 and B2305 for 51 Pearl Street. This meeting is the opportunity to provide feedback on these applications, and the Planning Advisory Committee welcomes any questions and comments you may have. We encourage you to provide feedback at this public meeting, as the Planning Back rules suggest that the public's ability to voice objections later in the process may be limited if a written or oral comment is not submitted. The Planning Advisory Committee is the decision-making authority for consent applications. The committee will review the applications and any comments or concerns from the public to inform their decision. I'll now pass the meeting over to Planner 1 Richard Grant to report on applications 23-04 and 23-05. Following their presentation, we will open the floor to comments from the applicant or their agent and also from the public. Richard?
Good night, everyone. We'll be talking about consent application B2304 and B2305, 51 Pearl Street. So as you can see here, this is like a Google Earth image of the two applications. On the parcel B, which is B2304, that is proposed to be severed, and for parcel B, which is B2305, as well as you can see for B2305, there is also an easement that would be benefiting that lot, a 6-meter wide easement. Application B2304, parcel A, proposes to sever a 8.27 acre vacant lot from the parcel over on Pearl Street and Percy Street. Application B2305 proposes to sever a 15 15-acre vacant parcel of land and establish a 6-meter wide easement over the retained lot to provide access to the retained lot on Purcell Street. The retained lot is 12.4 acres and it is zoned institutional special exception 1 with a long-term care facility currently under construction. Here is the proposed severance sketch from the applicants. On parcel A, it is 8.27 acres, and for parcel B, it is 15 acres, and the retained lot is 12.44 acres, with a easement highlighted in yellow. In 2019, there was a zoning amendment application, zoning amendment to rezone a portion of the subject lands. So 13.6 acres of the subject lands were rezoned from future development and residential to institutional special exception. The proposed rezoning had a holding provision which had 2 criteria: to provide legal access to the property as well as entering into a site plan control agreement, implementing appropriate engineering, design, and environmental work. In January 2023, there was a site plan control application to develop the single-story long-term care facility at Pearl Street. In March of that year, there was a minor variance to request a widening of the proposed driveway from 3 meters, so with an additional relief of 3 meters to create a 9-meter wide driveway. So the 9-meter wide driveway was the unopened road allowance located between 2 homes at 49 and 53 Pearl Streets. Following in July, there was a road closure as well as a site plan control agreement that followed. Site plan control agreement was entered in July, and which allowed their holding zone to be lifted. And at this present time, there's 2 consent applications, and there are no development proposals for the 2 applications. There's simply a request to sever the 2 parcels. Here we can see a zoning map. The zoning map shows the zoning of the area. So for parcel B, it is zoned future development. And for parcel A, it is zoned residential with several different zoning zones within the same parcel, starting from residential type 1 to residential type 2, residential type 3, and residential type 4 with a holding zone. Now, for the purposes of this presentation, the holding zone on part of the parcel for parcel A will not affect the decision on this consent application. And there's also for the retained lot, it is zoned institutional. Now, for a lot of the area, it is has a significant wetland. A significant woodlot. So a lot of the area that is being severed is considered a significant woodlot. The purpose of this meeting, the public meeting to involve the community to consider a change in the configuration of their properties. Now, for further agency feedback consultation, we were in consultation with Public Works, Enbridge, Hydro One, and RVC, which is the Rio Valley Conservation Authority. Hydro One and Enbridge does not object to the proposed applications, and following RVC as well does not object to the application. For RVC, they only recommend that any proposed development for parcel B be appropriately set back to avoid the impact that would be created from the unevaluated wetland that is located on parcel B. Public Works also does not object to the application. They only say that in the event of future development, that there be technical studies be provided, such as a stormwater management report. Stormwater management report, as well as a design brief. And they also suggest that the proposed easement be widened to municipal standards to accommodate any other infrastructure that be required if the parcel B is to be developed in the future. And these are the policies that were reviewed in consultation for the application. looking at significant wood loss and vegetative cover, environmental impact statements, stormwater infrastructure, and residential. And for the zoning review, there's also a look at the holding zone, the future development zone, as well as the residential zone, as well as the provincial policy statement. For application B2304, looking at the land use compatibility, the area is zoned residential, is zoned residential, and the type 4, the residential type 4 holding zone does not have an effect on this application. And the official plan had identified significant woodlots in the area, and staff recommend that for any future work, that an environmental impact statement be required in the future. Looking at the municipal water and wastewater servicing capacity, there are mains located off of Percy and Pearl Street, and staff recommend that for any future development, that a servicing capacity brief and stormwater management report be provided. And for vehicular access could be facilitated from either one of the two unopened road allowances on Pearl Street or off the main road at Percy Street. Application B2304, staff believe that the application broadly meets the intent of the PPS, the town's official plan, and as such recommend the following conditions. We're making a decision here, or we're waiting till the end? Wait till the end. Right. For application B2305 for land use compatibility, it is done future development, and as such require any future work to be contemplated. For the land use system suitability, significant woodlots were identified via official plan mapping. And a 217 AS confirmed that there is an undeveloped wetland on that lot, and staff recommend that for any future development that an EAS be performed. Looking at the municipal wastewater servicing capacity, because it is doing future development, requires an establishment of wastewater servicing capacity, and staff recommend that a servicing capacity brief and stormwater management report be done for any future work. Now, the parcel is currently landlocked, and so there was proposed for having a 6 meter wide easement over the retained lot to facilitate access. Staff recommend that the easement be widened to 9 meters to align with the driveway that is on the retained lot. Staff believe that the application for B2305 broadly meets the intent of the PPS and the town's official plan. And here are the following conditions.
Thanks, Richard. We'll begin by hearing from the applicant. Following, we will hear from members of the public. I'll now call on the applicant or their agent to the podium if they wish to speak to the application.
Hi everyone, and through the chair, my name is Dennis Gratto. I'm working with EFI Engineering on behalf of the owner Jim Parsons on this application, and also Andrew Howard is in attendance as a solicitor. So we're here to answer any questions you might have. But I'd like to start off by saying that we have reviewed the staff report and we're in support of the recommendations that the department has for this committee. And we're here to, like I said, answer any questions, but if just a couple of comments is really what we're trying to do here is formalize the boundaries of the land around the institutional use, the nursing home, so that it's clear cut that the boundaries are set and that the residential parcels that Richard talked about can be developed in the future. Whatever form that takes. We're not there yet, and we don't have any plans to develop those lands. But definitely the recommendation that speaks to the technical studies required to develop those lands, that'll come in due course when we actually have a development program, whatever that may be. And of course, we have to assess the impact of the environment or on the development on the environment. So I think by going ahead and granting the two severances or applications, it definitely does represent good orderly planning and is consistent with your official plan and your zoning bylaws. And I think it's setting up development for the future so that we can make this land work for the town and bring in the housing that you need. I think it also, again, I want to repeat it, it provides a clean title and the operation for the nursing home as well. So I think that's all I have to say with regards to that, because Richard was very comprehensive in his presentation. Is there any questions?
I don't have it. You on? Okay.
I'll just make a comment. Thank you for that. And I think this, you know, it's really great that we're getting a new retirement home, and you've got a surplus land, and this is just doing the bureaucratic duty to sever it, and then there's 2 other parcels there that are pretty well situated for future development, which may or may not be in the next 5 or 10 years, but it'll be there. So I think this is just a crossing of I's and dotting of I's and crossing of T's.
Any other questions? Thanks, Dennis. I'll now call anybody from the public, if anything they want to say.
Mr. Chairman,
Sorry, do you mind going up to the podium so the microphone can get you?
certainly I'd be pleased to.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I live at 47 Pearl, and obviously very much impacted by the development. I was talking with one of your gentlemen here earlier, and I was surprised to learn that the township of Rideau, which basically surrounds this particular property on the far side of it, is agreeable to having the land transferred to Smith Falls. But for some reason, Smith Falls doesn't want to seem to be moving in that direction very quickly. And the question in my mind is, if we have that land developed and it's identified as parcel B to be severed, and it can be developed for residential housing, and we need housing, why don't we get on with it and get it done? And why would the town not be amenable to having that transfer with the township on the, what appear to be the east side? I don't have a compass on the map, but that looks like it's probably more to the south. And then, of course, the other question in my mind is on the area which is to be parcel A. We have R1, R2, R3, R4, and I'm wondering why it would not all be the same. Why would it just not be straight residential? And is there any reason why that could not be developed as residential property with normal housing, single homes, and provide the housing which Ontario keeps telling us that we need? And I'm not in disagreement with the idea at all. It seems like a very good thing. I think the ultimate development in there with the Broadview will be ultimately to everybody's benefit. And when I'm looking at the easement, I'm wondering, well, why go for the easement? Why not go for a special road development that would allow good access, unless you can come in from the south end, or I keep saying south, assuming that it is south. If Township of Rideau is agreeable, then that solves the dilemma. All Smith Falls has to do is make a deal, get on with it, have that property available for residential development, get it moving, get the whole thing done, and not delay any longer. That's my view. I don't have any objection to the theory that's presented, but I'd like a question as to, or an answer to the question as why R1, 2, 3, and so on. Why not just straight R? And in the parcel B, YFD, why not just residential one? So if the committee would like to address that, or the consultants that are here available, that's my only observation. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, thank you, and I think you're one of my neighbors. We've met before. Tonight is about the two pieces that they're going to be severed, and I'll let Richard comment on our 1, 2, and 3. I think that's all available for residential.
It's all residential.
Yeah, and then the other parcel as FD is not at this time residential, but it could be, right? And in terms of the piece on Rideau Lakes, that's a very interesting thing, but that would be up to council to go forward with Rideau Lakes on that. For tonight's purposes, I think we're basically just saying this is a big lot here. There's 2 parcels that are going to be severed, and then we're going to allow for a road allowance that's going to be a little wider for a driveway into the facility when it's finished. So, but all those other points that you've made are very valid, and I think we will be up for discussion in the future. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Jay. Okay, I'll ask for any questions or comments from the committee members. Carl?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, just to speak on the with respect to the zoning context. So our understanding was there was a subdivision that was proposed in the past in that area, and a zoning category, and there was a variety of zoning categories applied to some of those lands to accommodate development of that concept of development at the time. The development did not proceed, of course, but the zoning continued to exist and was carried forward into our current zoning. So our expectation, and we don't see any reason that we need to change the different residential zoning categories. Each of those zoning categories allow a variety of forms and densities of housing, but the expectation, of course, would be that once a development concept is, if the severance is granted and the lots exist on their own, once a development concept is received, then if the properties need to be rezoned, or if that little holding zone needs to be lifted, then that can be addressed at that time. The same principle applies for that future development zone. The easement would be a sort of a way into it now, but in the event that some permanent access is provided as sort of as a future step following the severance approval, then of course, once again, the zoning and planning approvals process would administer that. Perhaps that easement won't be required anymore, but that's a conversation for another day.
Let me, Mr. Chair, just to point out that this land that the retirement home is going on was not zoned for industrial or institutional at the time. So council started the process last term to rezone this land as institutional to facilitate the building of the retirement home now. So what Carl, I think we were talking about was it's zoned for different Rs there, and then the future development, when a proposal comes forward, then that can be considered at that time. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Jay. Do you have any comments, Stephen?
No, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the committee has a task of making a decision on concept applications 23-04 and 23-05. If the committee is ready, I'll now enter into a motion for application B 2304. Moved by Stephen, seconded by Yvonne. All in favor? Carried. I'll now move into entertain a motion for application B 23-05.
I have one question,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
The 9-meter wide easement, the Public Works Department is requesting a 20-meter for the easement. And as it stands right now, if that lot is to be severed off, it'll have title, it can be sold, and then it's only a 9-meter. And if they want to develop, then it's in 2 different property owners that have to address the issue of access, the way it stands today.
Correct,
That
yes.
doesn't mean 10 years down the line, there's a different configuration in the area. So that does have, I do have a concern about the 9 meters.
On 2304?
2305.
No, 2305 is that?
Oh, okay, yes, sorry. Yeah. My question there, is there enough room to develop it? If, say it did change, is there enough room there to make it bigger? In their design that's there today? Dennis?
Through the chair, it's a good question. When we looked at putting the easement through, we wanted to make sure that there was an access to those future lands, which are really landlocked. If the development proposal comes through, in the future, in whatever form it takes, that one access is not going to be enough. I don't even think the town would even entertain that
No,
as an option. Simple subdivision rules, you'd have to have at least 2.
yeah,
For fire and emergency operations. So I think for now, we have access to that parcel B to do whatever, to maintain it, or for anybody to go through it to do any kind of investigation or maintenance. But when we come in with a development proposal, they'll have to have a secondary or even a third source to get in there. And I can even see that driveway being abandoned in favor of just the nursing home, once we get everything set up with proper road allowances that Public Works would approve.
So, Mr. Chair, I think it's also important to notice that if you're looking at the actual property itself, there is currently an easement in favor of the town of Smith Falls over the whole property, going from Percy Street along the outside of the property. That's a high school, so it is the size of the road, and it goes around the corner and goes down. So that could be something that would be encapsulated in that as well. So that, if that was what the committee desired, we could also have that as a possible easement.
does that answer your question? So I'll now entertain a motion for application B 23-05. Moved by Jay. Seconded by Stephen. All in favor? Carried. Thank you for attending and participating in the planning process of applications B 2304 and B 2305. Anyone requiring further notice regarding the application is asked to leave their full name and mailing and email address on the sign-in sheet located at the table by the door. If you have any questions on this application or the process, I invite you to get in touch with the planning clerk. This concludes the public meeting portion of the Planning Advisory Committee. We'll move into our next item on our agenda. Priority issues, we have none. Projects updates, we have none. Next meeting will be Planning Advisory Committee meeting will be December 14th, 2023. And I have a motion for adjournment. Moved by Jay. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification.